Before that, I just want to talk really quickly about Northrop Grumman. Just give you a quick overview for those of you who are not that familiar with the company. And for those of you who are, I hope that you'll learn something new. So Northrop Grumman today, we are the leading global security company, and it's not easy to stay on top. We managed to do that for the last couple of years. Just in 2019, we acquired $33.8 billion in sales. 85% of that was in the US, and the remaining 15% was international. We do have operations all across the country and also in Europe and Australia. So that leads us to approximately 90,000 employees worldwide. And we provide leading capabilities in autonomous systems, space, strike, logistics and modernization, as well as cybersecurity and C4ISR. So as you can tell, Northrop Grumman is a gigantic corporation. And the only way for us to make sense of this huge, macro corporation, microorganism, is to divide it into four main pillars, or as we call them, our sectors. So obviously I'm not gonna go in depth about this, but I do want you all to have a good idea of what these sectors do. So let's start by aeronautics. Aeronautics is in charge of designing, integrating, and manufacturing aircraft. Some of our products the products that are done in the aeronautics sector is the B-2 airplane. We have some unmanned helicopters, and a lot of the war airplanes that you see out there. Actually, a lot of our airplanes were featured in the Top Gun movie, so that's a fun fact for you right there. Moving on to defense systems. Defense pretty much does combat systems and mission readiness, logistics and modernization, as well as advanced weapons. Mission systems, on the other hand, is in charge of advanced sensors, as well as cyber and software security that protects mission intelligence information. So in other words, mission systems is in charge so that all this important confidential information does not fall into the wrong hands. And last, but of course not least, is our space system, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's in charge of space missions and launch. They're a provider for launch solutions. One of the most famous and most notorious products that the space sector is working on right now is the James Webb Telescope, which is actually being manufactured in our Redondo Beach location. It's a very cool artifact to look at, very humbling. So like I said, I didn't want to go in depth about that because obviously I want the presentation to be about this, interview etiquette. So you worked so hard on your resume, you worked so hard attending career fairs, all these networking events, meeting professionals, and you finally have your interview. So what is the best way or the best actions to take to ensure that you nail your interview? So I'm going to go through what to do before, during, and after, and we'll have a small Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions or you come up with anything, write it down at the side, and you'll get a chance to unmute yourself and ask them towards the end. Finally, these opinions do not comprehend the entire Northrop Grumman opinions. These are something that myself and my colleagues put together as talent acquisitions professionals. So with that being said, I do want to start with this quote. Think about your next job interview as a presentation in which the topics are your experience, skills, and achievements. Now, all of us at some point, we've had to deliver a presentation for school, right? And whether we love it or not, it's notorious when somebody prepared questions or prepared themselves for the questions that the audience possibly have. It's very obvious when somebody researched about the company, when somebody practiced. So as I go through these slides, keep this in mind. Compare a job interview to a presentation. Obviously, it's not going to be an academic presentation. You're going to be talking about yourself. So it should be a little bit easier because you have experience with all these things. But just keep that in mind and try to make sense of that as we talk. So before your interview, you have to do your homework. Going back to the point of comparing interviews with a presentation, nobody just stands up in front of a room or a virtual room nowadays and starts talking, right? So you have to do your homework. You have to prepare your content. And in this case, your content will come from your resume. During an interview, everything that's on your resume, it's fair game for interviewers to ask you questions or to ask you to elaborate more about that. So in order to be prepared, you want to have a couple of talking points about, every single item on your resume. So if you get asked about that, you have something to talk about. You also want to be familiar with the company. An easy way to be familiar with the company is just going through their social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, sometimes Facebook, going through their career site or just their website in general. That will give you great updates on what the company is doing. And you want to be familiar with the company because common interview questions include, why do you want to work for us instead of our competition? Or, what do you know about our company? And sometimes can be a deal breaker if you don't know anything about the company, then that just may come across like you're hunting for a job, that you just want the first opportunity that comes in front of you. And obviously you don't want to come across like that. You can take it a step further and research about the industry. So what are these other companies doing that the particular company that you're interviewing for, it's not? What are some trends that are very popular amongst companies in this industry? And that is just a nice touch to have, and that can lead up to asking questions about, the industry or how do they see the company in a couple of years. It's always a nice touch. You want to be familiar with the role you're interviewing for. Obviously, this will help you have an idea of what skills and abilities you want to highlight. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in my next slide, but just keep in mind that it's super important for you to know who or what role you're interviewing for, of course. So you also have to prepare, and let's start by your setup. So before COVID, you can expect to go to an on-site interview, step into a conference room, and have a quiet, peaceful place for you to interview and just focus. Nowadays, obviously, we're all home, and we have to prepare and create that environment, right? So let's start by your hardware, your capabilities. If your laptop doesn't have a webcam, which I doubt, I mean, just, mine happens to not have a webcam, you will have to prepare your video if that's the case. Something that I do recommend is having like a headset to your laptop. That really helps out to make your audio like be clear. Sorry, if your interview is, sorry. Whew. That's better. So if your interview is through Zoom, something that I recommend is dialing in from your phone. That sometimes helps the audio quality. But definitely AirPods, a headset, headphones, all of that will change, will help you be heard clearly and hear your interviewer clearly as well. Prepare your background, right? Sometimes our backgrounds are not are kind of distracting. So if you have a lot of pictures in the wall behind you, that can deviate the attention of the interviewer there. Or for example, if I knew that this door right here is being used constantly throughout the day, then I would probably want to choose another location, right? And obviously our managers understand that we're all stuck at home, and it's the way it is right now. So these are not deal breakers, but definitely will help to create a better environment for your interview to go successfully. Prepare your questions. So towards the end of the interview, they're going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? And obviously you want to ask questions. These means that you are interested in the role and that you're curious, and that's always a great quality for university students to have. I'll elaborate a little bit more about questions in my after the interview slide, but just to give you a preamble. And also prepare other people at your house. So if you live with other people, and sometimes it can get noisy, especially if you live with kids. You have to prepare them, let them know like, hey, tomorrow I have a very important interview from this time to this time. Can you just like keep it down? Or sometimes I remember when I was in college, I shared the house with a lot of other people, like 6 or 7 people at the time. So when we were all there, the internet was just so slow, and it was almost impossible to get something done. So if that's your case as well, let other, your housemates or roommates know, hey, can, get off the internet just for this time. It's really important, and they should understand. And last but obviously not least, practice makes perfect. Same thing with a presentation. Professors recommend to stand up and kind of recreate the environment that you will have on the presentation. So same thing here. Try to recreate the environment that you will be having. If it's going to be through Zoom, you can turn on your webcam. If you have a peer or a classmate, a friend that you trust a lot, you can do mock interviews with them. If you have a tutor. And actually, the Office of Professional Development at the College of Engineering will be hosting mock interviews with recruiters from the industry sometime in October. I'm not sure what's the date, but you can reach out to them and they'll help you out. And this is just a wonderful opportunity for you to get feedback from recruiters that, that's our job, to interview university students. So if you have the chance to participate, please go ahead and do so. It's going to help you out tremendously. During your interview, you want to remain calm. Something that I always tell students that interview, especially for large companies like Northrop, the fact that you get all the way to the interview steps already speaks a lot about your qualifications as a candidate. Because at least at Northrop and at Western Digital, where I used to work, we received so many applications. It's insane the amount of internship and entry-level applications that we received on a regular basis. So the fact that you make it all the way to the interview step, it's already a huge accomplishment, and you should pat yourself on the back just for that. So remain calm, dress professionally. Obviously, if your interview is happening through video, you want to be dressed up nicely because you're going to be seen. Even if it's by phone, I highly recommend that you at least dress up a little bit, because that really gives you another layer of confidence, if you may. And please be dressed up from head to toe. I've seen some horrible videos on social media about people that happen to not be wearing pants, and they have to stand up, whatever happens, and it's just, please don't put yourself in that situation. Dressed up from head to toe. Be on time. So I know that this virtual environment really allows us to, decrease our commute time, and we can be in our class or in our meetings in just 1 second. But you want to be on time. If you want to log in at least 5 to 10 minutes prior to your actual interview time, to allow yourself to test your audio, test your video. Right now, and towards the beginning of the meeting, we had some technical difficulties, and I'm glad we were early, right? So you don't really want to risk it, to be just in time. Allow yourself 5 to 10 minutes, especially if you're not familiar with the platform that it's being used. Not a lot of every company uses something different. It can be Zoom, it can be their personal platform, it can be Handshake. Whatever the case may be, allow yourself at least 5 to 10 minutes to test out technology. No distractions. So what I mean by this is you don't want to have your phone right here while you're interviewing, or you don't want to have, the TV here with some show or whatever. Don't let yourself get distracted. I get distracted very easily, and sometimes even working next to a window can distract me. So if I want to have meetings that I need to be really focused, I just shut down the window and turn on the lights. Try to diminish your distractions just for your own sake. Use the technology that you have. So I know that a lot of things have changed, and I think that this can actually work in your advantage. What I mean by this is that if you know that you're having a Zoom interview, for example, you can prepare at least one slide per project that you have. And if the interviewer asks you, can you tell me about your favorite project, or ask you about that particular project, you can share your screen, share that slide, and you can include pictures, videos, diagrams, whatever you want in order to make this really engaging, right? In the past, when interviews were in person, I saw students, one particular one, and she was very prepared. She had a full-on book as her portfolio, and she had every project very detailed, and managers just love that. And something that can translate to that is having your projects in a PowerPoint or a PDF. In case that you were asked about those projects, you can pull them up, share your screen, and it's a lot more visual. In the case of Zoom, you can use the annotation tool to, to draw things or draw diagrams. That can really work in your advantage. So if you know the technology that you're working on, in this case Zoom, then take advantage of it by all means. I skipped one. I skipped honesty, and honesty should have started from your resume, right? You don't want to lie in an interview. It's really easy to tell who's bluffing, and obviously you don't want to get caught in a lie, right? It's embarrassing, and it's definitely gonna cut your chances of landing the jobs. Please don't lie in the interview. It's preferred to, if you're asked something that you don't know the answer for, you can always say, you know what, I really don't know the answer. Would you mind walking me through the answer to this? And that's just the perfect answer, because it demonstrates honesty, and it lets me know that you're curious, that you're willing to learn. So honesty is the best policy. Now, focus on the skills that are relevant to the role. That means I talked briefly about this on the previous slide. And what I mean is that you want to highlight those skills that will be relevant. To give you an example, let's say that you are interviewing for an internship that is a back-end software programming. So obviously in that case, you want to highlight your C++, you want to highlight all these languages that are involved in the back end, and probably leave the front end languages a little bit on the back. Another example, for my computer engineering folks, that's a good mix of hardware and software. But let's say that you are interviewing for a role that's a lot more on the hardware side. So obviously you want to highlight your Arduino, your VHDL, and all those analog tools versus your software languages. So that's why it's really important to know what role you're interviewing for, to help you highlight and guide the answer to the questions, to those skills that are really necessary and relevant to the role. I also skipped this one, ask questions. Like I said, you will be given the chance to ask questions towards the end of the interview. You can also ask questions, throughout the interview, but be mindful that you don't want to take the entire interview time. Interviewers have an agenda of questions they want to get through in order to get to know you. So ask a couple of questions, but be mindful that you don't want to take the entire interview time. And last but not least, be genuine, have fun, and smile. I know that fun and interview are not always used on the same sentence, but like I said, it's a great deal that you made it through an interview. So right now it's just time for you to relax, be your genuine self, and and let the interviewers see that as well. I'm going to briefly talk about the STAR method of interviewing. And this is, if not the universal, the most commonly used method to answer behavioral questions. And these questions are all the ones that go, that ask you for an example of previous experience. Like, do you tell me about a time when you had to work with somebody who was difficult to get along with, right? Or like, give me an example of a time when you had to meet a tight deadline. So all these questions are being asked, or can be answered, with the STAR method. So let me quickly walk you through what it means or what it stands for. First of all, you want to prepare. And this applies not only to behavioral questions, but also to technical ones. You can take a couple of seconds to gather your thoughts and then start talking. Actually, I do prefer when people tell me, hey, can you give me a couple of seconds to gather my thoughts, instead of just having them talk and talk and talk without landing anywhere. So take your time, 5 to 8 seconds is recommended to gather your thoughts. First is the situation, and situation provides a little bit of background and context for the interviewer, just so they can get a better picture of what was going on. A good background would be like, oh, well, and if you were in a class, or if this was a part of a previous internship or part of a personal project, that can apply. The task is the issue at hand, right? So what was happening that was causing you a trouble? What was the roadblock? What was the obstacle? The action is exactly what you did. And you want to spend the most time in the action, because that is what interviewers are looking for. They are looking to know how you reacted in the past to try to predict how can you react to a similar situation in the future. Yeah, you want to spend like the most time in the action, laying it down exactly what you did, and the results are the benefits of those actions, right? It's at the end of the day, what happened and how did my actions benefit it, or how did I get a benefit from my actions on this? So you can just there's a ton of STAR interview questions on the internet. You can Google, STAR method interview questions examples, and you're gonna get a ton. And I would recommend, preparing a couple of them, because a lot of them are the same across the industries, right? Like about time management. Tell me about a time when you learned from a mistake. All these are gonna look relatively the same. So I recommend preparing a couple of stories, going back to your experiences, and have these stories ready in case that you encounter one of these questions. You have one answer right off the bat. And a quick note, it's that you can gather these experiences from anywhere. It doesn't have to be necessarily engineering related. If you had a part-time job, at Chipotle, at Ross, wherever, you can draw experiences from there, because these behavioral questions are pretty much to measure how you work well with others and under pressure and whatnot. They're not meant to measure your technical abilities. And after your interview, you can breathe. The hardest part is over. So before you leave, like I said, you want to ask questions. Then again, there's a ton of examples of questions to ask after an interview on the internet. But at the end of the day, you want to ask questions that you want the answers for, right? If for you it's important to have a mentor, then you can ask, what are the mentorship opportunities in your company? If for you it's important to work as a team, you can ask, hey, so what are the teamwork opportunities look like? It's the same thing. You really want to get your questions answered. You get contact information. That's also very important. So everyone who interviews you, it's more than willing to give you their contact information, their email, etc. So you're more than willing to ask for that as well. You can follow up with them. Follow up within 12 to 24 hours after the interview. Just a little thank you. This is not necessary, but it's highly encouraged, because it's looked as a nice touch to have. And in this email, you can just remind them why you feel that you are suited for this role. So just remind them how your skills and abilities align to what they are actually looking for. And I do want to leave you with this quote, is that job interviews are very much like first dates. Good impressions count, awkwardness can occur, and outcomes are unpredictable. So even if you feel like you excelled on your interview, at the end of the day, it's a match, right? Just like a first date. If you don't feel that connection on the first date, then you cannot force the person to go on a second one. Same thing here. If at the end of the day, if managers are looking for different sets of skills, then unfortunately there's no way to force them into getting the job, and vice versa, right? If the manager really liked you and it's offering you the job, but you feel that this company is not right for you, then it's okay to turn it down. So with that, I do want to open it up for quick questions. I would say 5 minutes, because I do have Karen here, and I am more than excited for you to hear her story. And so any questions, you can unmute yourself or you can type them in the chat and I can read them out loud.
Yeah, I had a bit of a question.
Hey, Marco, of course. Nice to see you again.
It's great to see you too. Let me turn on my camera. So I know with Ship Nationals coming up, I was wondering if maybe you had any insight as to how that would kind of be in terms of a virtual conference, and what tips you would, or I guess a better way of rephrasing this is, how would you recommend we best prepare for Nationals?
Gotcha. That's a great question. So for Nationals, I would have your elevator pitch ready. And that is just like a 30-second blurb of who you are, what are you looking for, and you know, like a little like cliffhanger to continue the conversation. And I can really just like spend another hour talking about the elevator pitch and how you phrase it, but in just the nutshell, an elevator pitch would include like what year are you in. So if you're a senior, freshman, sophomore, what's cool, sometimes that's important. What's your major? So if you're electrical engineer, aerospace, computer science, and what are you looking for? So if you're looking for internships, for co-ops, for entry-level roles, etc. So just to give you an example, you can say like, hi, like my name is, and you can have it, I'm sorry, I just deviated. You can have it also written like in a notepad in your computer, because a lot of these virtual conferences are happening like in a chat kind of a thing. So instead of like typing it every time, you can have it ready to copy and paste. And you can just say something like, hi, my name is Marco. I don't know, I'm making it up. I'm a senior at Cal State Long Beach, majoring in electrical engineering, and I'm expecting to graduate in 2022. Is your company hiring for 2021 interns? And that's a great way to start the conversation and take it from there. So like I said, I hope that answered your question. And that's my best advice, to have your elevator pitch ready, because sometimes when you log in and you're both in there and you're just like, well, what's next, right? So that's the best first step.
Awesome. No, thank you so much.
Of course. I see another question in the chat from Stephanie. Are positions labeled as associate? Are positions labeled as associate be entry-level positions? So for the most part, yes. For the most part, at least in Northrop Grumman, roles that have the word associate in front of the job, for example, associate aerospace engineer, those are roles that are entry level, which means that it can be all the way from college hire to like a couple of years of experience. It really depends on the manager, right? What they are looking for. Sometimes they can wait a couple of months until you graduate. Sometimes they need somebody that can start ASAP. But back to your question, yeah, at least in Northrop, the roles that are labeled as associate are pretty much entry-level roles. Of course. So I do want to hand it over to Karen. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, but just to give you a preamble, she is a systems engineer at Northrop Grumman, and she is also the 2020 secretary for the SHIP chapter in the South Bay. So very excited to have her here. And Karen, please take it away.
Hi guys, good afternoon. I'm also excited to be here. Raul, really good presentation. So I am here representing Cal State Long Beach alum, SHIP South Bay LA, and Northrop Grumman. And there are 3 things that I learned in my undergrad that I wanted to share with you guys that sort of show my journey to Northrop Grumman. So the first tip is align yourself with like-minded individuals. When I started my career, or I guess my college career, I am a first-generation Latina, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do within STEM. I started as a biochemistry major, and in one of my classes, I met this girl named Cristina who showed me or got me involved with this club called Mesa. And through there, I learned about engineering, what that was. I went to conventions, and instantly I knew that's what I wanted to do, so I made the switch. And at my community college, Santa Ana College, I also started the Society of Women Engineers with Cristina. And then that kind of gave me the confidence to start a club at Cal State Long Beach called the International Society of Automation, which all of you guys should join because it's still there. And this club was really what developed my leadership skills. And I was able to meet engineers that told me about a lot of engineering positions that I had no idea existed. Again, this is a world that I'm completely foreign to. So being involved in these clubs really did help me sort of push myself out there and become more comfortable with myself as an engineer. And then also because of the ISA, I was able to meet a mentor, and he's the one who told me about space and defense. I had no idea what South Bay was. I didn't know that we were an aerospace hub. So again, being involved in chapters really does introduce you to like people who are professionals, and then through them you can really get guidance. And then right now I'm the secretary of both the ISA professional chapter in Orange County and SHIP South Bay LA, which I'm really excited to show you guys. Oh, the pictures that you see there on the left side, that's the stuff that I was able to do at Cal State Long Beach. The top one is called a PLC. This is a programmable logic controller. The awesome thing about the International Society of Automation is that even though I'm a chemical engineering major, I did that. It doesn't mean that only chemical engineers can do this. This is definitely like an engineering job. So it's great to collaborate with all different types of engineers. And this was the beginning of me being able to, or just realizing that, like just because you major in one thing, you're not going to, pinhole within that forever, right? You're able to explore. So second tip is that you're not going to know everything, right? And you never will. So it's definitely learning as you go. Don't be afraid to apply for jobs that you might feel that you're not qualified for. For example, I work right now as a systems engineer, and I majored in chemical engineering, which people might think like, what? But there's actually a lot of parallels. And what I learned at school is that I have developed this engineering mindset that I can use in multiple ways, and that I'm like a natural leader, that I'm a good communicator. And really, when you're interviewing, use your skill sets to get you your dream job. And then also remember that engineering is a team effort. That's why people want to know how you get along with other people. It's because you don't know everything. You can't know everything. To make something amazing, it's going to take a group of different types of people. So this is why I guess it's really important. And my third tip is be okay with failure. I think this is a really important sort of like character trait that people need to develop. We're not perfect human beings. It's good to fail. And how you handle failure is really a testament to your character. It's great to learn from your mistakes. And if you go to your dream job and get rejected, don't think that that's it. Right? Like a lot of people have, like people that I met through Northrop, a lot of people have had other jobs, learned certain skill sets, and then later applied to Northrop Grumman and got in when they were able to get a lot more experience in. So I guess that's my three tips. Align yourself with like-minded individuals, know that you're not going to know everything, and then be okay with failure. And then actually, I heard you guys talk about SHIP National. South Bay LA is doing a contest right now where we're going to be giving out 5 convention sponsorships. I'll put a link down in the chat so you guys can check that out. And then also I am the secretary, so I do send out the newsletters. I'll send a link to register for it. I think South Bay LA is an amazing chapter. We are heavily involved. Last year we won an award for our volunteer efforts. And the great thing about them is that now that I'm a professional, the difference between being a student in SHIP and then being a professional in SHIP is that they're sort of helping me develop my professional self. And then also I get to do what I've always wanted to do, which is community outreach. Cal State Long Beach is my school. So if you guys need anything, I'm here for you, and I can get other people to talk and and you guys can hear about their experiences. Because, no two experiences are the same, but, everyone's here to help. Oh, and in case you guys are curious of what I do at work, I do concepts. I'm doing like a concept stage development of a satellite that supports real-time and virtual hardware for multiple missions. So again, I didn't major in aerospace. I didn't know much about electrical engineering aside from what I did with my club. I didn't do mechanics, right? I did chemical engineering, which is kind of different. But yet here I am every day learning something new. I love my job. It's super amazing. I recommend the company. Everyone's so friendly, and you can be there forever. If you don't like your current job, you can apply for a different job within the company, and that's amazing. So go Northrop.
I agree, Karen. This is a great company to work for. And actually, we had a question in the chat that said, how did you make the transition from chemical engineering to your current role as a systems engineer?
So when I got hired in person at the SWEET convention last November. And it was different because I went up to the booth, I showed someone my resume, talked about myself, he liked me. So he got me an interview, and then at the interview, I was just talking about myself. You know, I was really into automation. If I wasn't at Northrop Grumman, I would want to work for an automation consulting company just because automation is the future. And so just talking to her, she kind of gave me my position. She figured because of who I am, you know, this was sort of like more my style within aerospace. And then now, again, you're always going to be learning, and Northrop Grumman has so many opportunities for you to expand that. I'm taking a Caltech class in systems engineering fundamentals, so I'm learning the basics of systems engineering in the crash course, and then I get to also have, you know, that Caltech certificate under my name. So it's more of like when you interview, if you don't know, right, they want to make sure that you're trainable. And so it's okay if you don't have every technical skill. It's just, have you picked up a language? Because it's like learning a language is like learning a, you know, like French, right? Where if once you learn one, you can kind of like see the patterns and be able to learn other things. So definitely your technical skills, even if you don't have the exact language or stuff like that, as long as you show that you can learn and you want to learn and that you're passionate. Like, I love what Raul said about keeping a portfolio. I think that's definitely very important. And being honest. I was honest with her about not knowing about aerospace, but I said, you know, here I am. Do you want me?
Absolutely great story, and it is right. You know, honestly, it's the best policy, and it's gonna get you a long way. You don't have to, like, you know, feel like you need to have any answers, because especially for intern and entry level roles, you know, managers know that you're not gonna hit the ground running, right? Managers are expecting to train you for a couple of months, so it's more than okay to not have all the answers. Awesome. So any other questions for Karen, for myself? We are here. I know we have a couple more minutes left. So you can just type them in, you can unmute yourself, and we are here for you.
So I kind of had a question. So if the interviewer asked, like, also, like, what position are you, like, interested in? Like, what would be their best response? Just be like, I could have, like, a general idea that, like, since I'm civil, I kind of want to be, I kind of want to have an internship based on structures. But then, like, and especially with a big company like Northrop Grumman, there's, like, a lot of, like, different positions that have, like, structures or stress analysis roles. But which one, like, which one should I say, or what should my answer be if I don't know, like, which one exactly?
Yeah, if you have a clear idea of what you want to do, then you can say, you know, I want to focus on like this, but I'm also open to other roles that involve A, B, and C, right? So if you, for example, like you just like mentioned stress analysis and stuff along those lines, so you can say, you know, your main interest, but I would also be open to this kind of roles. And if, you know, if you really are not sure, that's also fine, because a lot of students are, you know, I just want to work for Northrop because I love the values and I know what it stands for. So I'm really open to whatever role. That's also fine. So in a nutshell, if you have an idea of what your goals are, list them. But if you want to keep that end open, it's more than okay to be like, but I'm also open to exploring other possibilities or roles that involve these kinds of fields.
Okay, so it's kind of like okay to say that, like, I'm so, like, a bit open-minded, and it's because, like, sometimes I feel like they recommend us coming with, like, a very strict and very direct answers to those questions, since it's like we're like more of our future or like development company.
Yeah, well, it is good to have an idea. For example, like I said, but also don't try to put all your eggs in one basket. For example, if you just want to do systems, and at the time, you know, if they don't have any, if they're not hiring for systems, then you're, you know, shooting yourself in the foot, right? So it's also good to keep your eggs in different baskets and keep that open, right? At least in my point of view, it's much better when I'm meeting someone who knows what they want to do, but also it's flexible.
Thank you for answering.
Of course.
Hey, Ro, this is George.
Hey, George.
Hey, how you doing? Nice save earlier, by the way. Those people walking behind you.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I should really start, teaching by example. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So listen, I'm gonna apply for the I think it was the co-op internship. That's deadline's coming up at the end of this month, I think. I guess so my question is, could you explain the process, like after you apply, or what happens afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. So after you apply with us, you can do that also with the link that I shared earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and share it right now as well. So after you submit your application, your resume, a broad pool of managers will take a look at the resumes. It's the questions that our website asks are very much on the lines of what are your preference, if you have a location preference, etc. What do you want to do, your major. So they're all going to review. At least the managers that have openings will review the resumes, and we'll get in touch with you, to probably get a little bit more of background from you, like a pre-screening. And after that, interviews will take place probably by the end of October. That's the date that we have penciled down for now. So that's like a rough estimate of what can you expect from the recruiting process.
Oh,
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So you guys are actually starting interviews before the end of October, then?
Yeah, probably the last week. And like I said, that's penciled down because a lot of things can change very quickly. So
Yeah.
hopefully by the end of October, and as of my knowledge, they're going to be through either a virtual platform. They're not going to be in person.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Of course. And Karen, I think this question is for you, and it reads, how was the transition to SHIP professional chapter after being a student?
So this is a little different for me. I was not in SHIP as a student. Again, I started my own club on campus, and that kind of kept me busy. I got involved with the professional chapter once I was already a professional, but I mean, as a person who was at school, the difference is when you're in school, it's more about, everyone getting together to be able to, in the future, get a job, right? So exposing you to the different careers that you can have and like that type of stuff. And then again, once you're professional, it's different, where it's more of like, how can you give back and how can you develop yourself? So they have like different purposes. I hope that answered your question.
Definitely, thank you.
And I know that we are almost at time. So I want to thank you all for your time. I know that can be very exhausting to be in Zoom in your classes, being Zoom here. So thank you so much. Muchas gracias for your time. If you do have any other questions as far as interviewing or Northrop Grumman, I am more than happy to answer them. I will give you all my email. Be mindful if I don't reply right away. It might take me like a day or two, but more than happy to connect with you with further questions. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I am very active on there as well. And I hope to see you on future events. Karen, anything else you want to add?
Just be confident in yourself. You guys can do it. I think you guys kind of have an advantage in this virtual setting just because you have so many access to things that you might have to go to Florida for, kind of thing. So don't be discouraged just because it's virtual, and stay involved. Join the newsletter. And again, we're here for you. We want you guys to succeed. We're family.